Yes, ma'am, we are live now. You can start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to one and all present here. I am Ms. Uzma Hussain, a teacher teaching commercial studies for the past 13 years. Have been the board corrector since the past around 8 years, and working at a level where teaching commercial studies, knowing commercial studies in detail, and then passing on the information to all my teachers. And I can see few students who have joined here, so my students as well as students of other schools who have joined the session. So we shall begin with the session today. So today we will be seeing how to prepare for our semester 2 paper, which is scheduled to be the last paper, that is on 23rd May. Our exam commercial studies is scheduled as on the revised timetable for the ICSE board. Now let us discuss the scope of the reduced syllabus. Commercial studies carrying 100 marks paper. Now this 100 marks paper wherein we had semester 1, which was for 40 marks, which is already done, that is multiple choice paper, and semester 2, which is going to be, which is will students will be appearing for the exam. And we have the internal assessment where we have the projects or the board assignments carrying 20 marks. These are the internal marks which the school must have assessed, every teacher must have assessed their students. Coming to semester 2, what we will be doing is we will just go through the bifurcated syllabus. I would not go into the details of the bifurcated syllabus. Rather, we will be discussing every topic in detail, and then how do we go about preparing the particular portion. So if we see the semester 2 portion, we have finance and accounting. Finance and accounting, the unit which comprises of final accounts of a sole proprietor. So we have already done final accounts of a sole trader, wherein we have taught children how to prepare balance sheet. But this time the pattern is changed a little, where the sheet, the entire pattern will be the salt sum will be given. We will only have to fill in the blanks for the students. So they only have to fill in, and therefore the marks are reduced from 10 to 6. Then we have budgeting. We have the sources of finance, where categorically they have mentioned capital market, sources of raising capital. This is under the unit finance and accounting. Coming to human resource, they have said complete unit. Now, this human resource unit is nothing but recruitment and selection, which is there. Training is not a part of the portion. We have recruitment and selection only. Then we have logistics and insurance. That's again a complete unit. There are certain things which are not required to be done from this chapter also, which we will see in detail further. And we have banking. Banking again, there are a number of things which are there, which we need to know as students and as teachers. Now here further on we start. I have done is I have divided the chapters in a manner where we will see first budgeting chapter. So when we talk about budgeting, what all council has asked us to look into. The first thing is meaning and utility of budgeting. So when we talk about meaning of budgeting, we have the forecasting also coming in. When you are revising, now there is no question of teaching children. So majorly it is of
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Your voice is very low.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay. So I think so I'll hold on to the mic here. Yes. Uh, I'll go come back again for budgeting. Budgeting, when we talk about meaning and utility of budgeting, comparison, difference between budgeting and forecasting, and then we have the types of budgets. Now, when we talk about budgeting, or when we talk about budgeting as a chapter, we are not going to teach students now anymore. We will be revising. How do we revise? It is very important that when we are revising, we need to begin writing. It is important for them to write. So when we are teaching them to write, meaning of budgeting, what actually is budget, meaning of budgeting, the process, utility of budgeting, all points need to be considered. They are very direct points given in the textbook. The same thing has to be followed. Then we have the comparison, difference between budgeting and forecasting. Textbook has both the details given. One is in the tabular form and the other is given in the point form, pointer forms. And council being very direct to the point, we do not have to, take into too many details. Of course, while teaching, we will. But when it comes to revision, we have to make it a point that revision does not become very monotonous or becomes very kind of tiring for children. So it is important for us to put it in a manner where we have to make them understand that even writing one sentences, but the keyword, they will fetch them marks. And finally, it has the types of budgets where we have sales, production, cash, purchase, and master budget. Meaning only is mentioned by the council. What we do is, we when we teach or when we revise, it is important for us to tell them the meaning, how, why sales budget and why production budget, or what is sales budget, prepared by who prepares it, the objective and purpose of preparing sales budget. For example, if I talk about cash budget, we cash budget is prepared to know the predicted inflow and outflow of cash for the future period. So even if this one line is written, there are four keywords: predicted cash flow and inflow for a future period. So when we talk about for a future period, it is very clear that it is budget. So it's important for us to make them revise in a manner where even one line is giving them the correct, giving them marks. So it's important for us to teach them proper keywords. Now coming to a little difficult chapter, I'm sorry. This is something which is the children feel it is a burden. Sources of finance. Why this chapter? Capital market, meaning of capital market, and role, functions of capital market. When we talk about capital market, it is important for us to teach what is a financial market, what is a money market. Even while revising, we need to revise for me to make them understand that what is a financial market, what is a money market, and why capital market is all interlinked, all linked together. Now, even the types of capital market is not mentioned, primary and secondary. But while revising, in a brief manner, we revise, but we stress on the meaning of capital market. We stress on the functions. Functions, those are the roles of capital market. So, mentioning about capital appreciation, mentioning about liquidity, mentioning about capital formation, those important points. It is very important for us to make them understand and highlight those pointers only. So it is very important that every time a child writes, it is important for him to know. When it comes to some answers, it is easy, for me as a teacher or you as a teacher or a student to know that this is the keyword. But every individual is different, so for them it is difficult to analyze or to think that, oh, this is the keyword. So keyword would be different, but it is only that the practice, how you practice, how you frame answers, and how you write an answer. That also is important. And underlining of keywords. Further on, when we talk about sources of raising capital, now sources of raising capital, there's a paragraph which is given. Below that, we have the long term and short term funds given. Now, in the sources of raising capital, it is talking about working capital. Working capital, why working capital? Why, what is working capital? And what is fixed capital? Fixed capital. So we need to make them understand that how this sources are related, are a part of working capital and fixed capital. It's again very clearly mentioned in the textbook. I would not go into the teaching details of it. Now, when it comes to revision for long term assets, long term securities, when we talk about meaning of shares, types, preference, and equity, then we have the debentures. I would suggest tell the students to revise the difference very well between shares, equity, preference, and then debentures. If the child learns the difference very well, child will be able to score very good marks when it comes to meaning also, because half the points are the maximum points are mentioned in the difference only. Preference and equity, lot many differences, their points are there. So if a short note also comes for 1.5 mark or for 3 mark, a child will be able to write what is an equity share with writing, listing down all the points which are given in the difference table. So it is not necessary that you study separately every part. If you study the difference very well, you know what are preference shares, what are equity shares, and then what are debentures also. Coming to the short term securities, in our scope we only have loans from commercial bank. So we have the cash credit, overdraft. It is very important when you revise, explain them the difference here between cash credit and overdraft, and then further on explain or revise discounting of bills of exchange. So when it comes to revision, it is always beneficial that you give them examples while revising. This is just a revision where when we talk about verbal revision, so that there is clarity when they write, when the students write. This is all about sources of finance. Next, further, we move on to the next chapter, a very interesting and a scoring chapter, which is recruitment and selection. So, when we talk about recruitment, the meaning of recruitment, the concept of recruitment, and the sources, internal sources and external sources. So, internal sources, promotion and transfer, which is mentioned, and we have the external sources. Further on, the council has very categorically mentioned about the advantages and the disadvantages of the internal and external sources. So, when we are telling them to write notes when it comes to external sources, suppose a child is writing about advertisement, make them write in the same points two pointers of two advantages and two disadvantages. In the same manner, you can go with all the pointers, all the external sources. Now children generally object that why do we study everything, ma'am? The answer may not be for more than 3 marks, then why are we studying so much? But then you never know if a question comes only related to advertisement or only related to casual callers or only related to campus interview. So students should know the advantages and disadvantages, not more than 2 pointers. That is enough, I think so, for external and internal, for external sources. Same way, there are certain points which are given for internal sources of recruitment in advantages and disadvantages. Even those points can be revised. Further to recruitment, we have the recruitment and selection part where we have selection. So we have the concept of selection, the steps, procedure. Now, then we have the types. Now, in the portion, if you see syllabus, nowhere the difference is mentioned, but we are teaching the difference between the recruitment and selection to our students. So we have the recruitment and selection difference, wherein again here, if I would suggest that do not study a separate meaning for recruitment or separate meaning for selection, go along with the difference between the recruitment and selection. So once you know the difference very well, you will be able to write a short note also on a particular topic. And then we have the steps, the procedure involved in the selection process, and we have the types of selection test. It is very important for us to make them understand why personality test and why intelligence test, how are they different, how when we talk about the trait text, the dexterity test, different types of tests, how each test is different. I would suggest here that when we revise with certain examples to students, and the way it is given in the textbook, small one liners are also enough. This particular question has not come since many years, types of selection test. So maybe in this year. Moving on further, we have logistics. Now, when we talk about logistics, we have the meaning of logistics and its classification. So, uh, I suggest always telling students when they write about logistics, they mention about the PDM, that is physical distribution management, which is given in the textbook, and then the classification also given. Classification, nothing but warehousing, insurance, transportation. So, certain points, if they mention these classifications, the meaning, it is well and good. It is just added, adds a weightage to the answer. Warehousing, almost everything has to be covered. So as per the syllabus, we have the meaning of warehousing, importance and types. Now importance, it is given very clearly in the textbook. Caption, seasonal demand, seasonal production, certain points are given where they are very clear with examples. I would suggest here, when we revise, when you're making them write answers for revision, you make it a point that you are making them write with examples. So when we talk about something related to seasonal production, give them a proper example or refer to the textbook. The textbook has enough examples. I would suggest you go with buy the book, buy the reference book. It becomes easier for students to refer for later also when they're at home studying all alone. And when we talk about the types, there's public, private, and bonded warehouse, though the textbook has cold storage warehouses also. So when we talk about public storage, public warehouses and private and bonded warehouses, they have said majorly now if you see specimen papers or many papers which are getting from other schools also, we are having short notes on these warehouses. So what do we expect a child to write short note on for a 3 mark or for 1.5 mark? So we basically consider it as, when we talk about meaning of or public warehouse, what is required. So it will be the public warehouse, owned by, owned, controlled by. So it is the ownership and the control. You can talk about the capital here if the child knows about the capital. Majorly, it is the ownership and control, the location of the warehouse, and most importantly, is the utility of the budget of the warehouse. So when we talk about the utility of the warehouse, it is important that we mention why public warehouses are used or for what purpose they are used. That is important. Same way for private warehouses, it is important to mention the utility. This will fetch a child good 3 marks or 1.5 mark depending upon the weightage of the answer. So remember, whenever you are making them write short notes, it is important for them to write the meaning, then they write about the ownership and control. Now in case of public uh, and private these warehouses, we have this particular point where we have the factor ownership and control, and then we have the location where exactly they are located, and finally there's the utility, the usage of these warehouses. Why do we have these categories in warehouses? So it's important for us to make them understand the utility. And finally, coming to a most important part is insurance, making them understand that insurance is a contract in writing. Again, here there are a number of definitions given for insurance. Refer to a small meaning where you are making the student understand or revise. It is a contract in writing between two parties who are agreeing mutually to a certain agreement. Now, what agreement can be further on? There's a detail given in the textbook. Now, when we talk about the types of insurance for us, it is important when we revise, make them understand that life insurance, how life insurance is different from fire, health, marine insurance, how it is different. It is important for us to explain it to them. Otherwise, otherwise they feel that every insurance is the same if they have their own concepts for insurance. So it's important, we need to make them understand the difference between the different types of insurances. And again, here I would suggest when we revise and when you're making them write, all revision should be in writing for that matter. So when you are revising your revision, your the types of insurance, when you're making them write, give them an example, state an example to them so that they can relate to a particular insurance, particular type of insurance very well, and which they will retain. And when it comes to writing an answer for them also, it would be easier to write the answer referring or correlating to the example. Coming to principles of insurance, again this students find it very difficult. What I do is I have made in my classroom every day. When we started the revision of this chapter, I had given 3 days to logistics insurance. We don't have classes more than 35 minutes or 40 minutes. So we decided that every day we will do two insurances, two principles, and that's how we finish the principles. So decide on the principles, give them proper markings, what is required. See, after all, they are all students. So for us, we cannot tell them to study everything. Of course, while teaching, we are teaching them everything. But when we talk about utmost good faith, there are 3 paragraphs given. What is required in this utmost good faith? Give them those pointers, make them study, ask them to write notes. So when they frame an answer, they become very confident for this principles of insurance when the teacher himself or herself is guiding the students. This is about logistics and insurance. Further, to coming to banking chapter. Banking chapter consists of central bank and commercial bank. So we have the meaning of central bank, then we have the functions of central bank, or we say the role of function bank, which is again very important. In brief, if I talk about the functions of commercial of central bank, we have the monopoly of note issue. It is important for us to make the student revise that the monopoly of note issue is with the RBI. So RBI has the authority, and the rupee 1 rupee note is published by the Ministry of Finance. This is very important. Further on, when you talk about bank, it acts as a fiscal advisor to the government, to the banks. This is very important. Then when we talk about talking about the lender of the last resort, when we talk about the other point which is there, we have custodian of foreign exchange, and we have pointers like the developmental function. We need to it is important for us to mention the highlights, the keywords of the functions. So if we are not able to highlight the keywords of the functions of the central bank, then that is where we miss on the part where the child will write everything but not the keyword, and that is where the child loses marks. So it's very important for us to know where we have to highlight which point, and why it is, why it is this keyword and why not the other one. So it's important for us to make them underline and prepare the notes in the same manner. Next, we come to the difference between central bank and commercial bank. This again gives a picture of, uh, you know, the entire central bank and the entire commercial bank. Though we don't have the meaning of commercial bank, basis of distinction is important. We don't know this year how the correction will be. Where will they go with basis of distinction, not go with the basis of distinction? So we always teach our children to write the basis of distinction and write the sentences in complete statements. It is important. Don't let them just write one word. Encourage them to frame complete sentences. Coming to internet banking, mode of transferring money. So different modes are there of transferring money. We have net banking. In net banking, we have NEFT, that is National Electronic Fund Transfer. Then we have the RTGS, real time gross settlement. Then we have IMPS, mobile wallets. Again, here meaning only as mentioned by the council. Yes, of course, meaning only, but if the difference is asked between NEFT and RTGS, we do not give full form as the difference. Remember this very well. Full form for both, it is not considered as the difference between NEFT and RTGS. Next, coming to ATM. ATM, the full form for ATM, automatic teller machine. Then we have the credit and the debit card. So when we talk about the plastic card, it is important for us to make them understand how a debit card is different from credit card, the difference between them, meaning of it, and importantly, most importantly, caution to be taken while using these particular plastic cards. So when we are using these cards, what caution is required by the card holder? And then financial fraudulent practices. This is something which is coming up in every board paper. Somewhere or the other, some point is mentioned. So whether it is about credit card fraud, false accounting fraud, insurance fraud, intellectual property fraud, how it is related to, when we talk about credit card fraud, how internet comes into picture. And when we talk about false accounting fraud, what is this false accounting fraud? What is the misrepresentation of accounts? How do they do it? Insurance fraud, what happens in the insurance fraud? Something else is being told, and then there's some other insurance or assurance given. So it is important for us to again here make the student understand brief, I mean, a descriptive manner. Number of things are given in the textbook. We don't have to do into detail, because the council has clearly said it is just the meaning. So when it is just the meaning, we focus on the meaning and do not go beyond it. Keep in mind, our paper now maximum marks are 3 marks. So keeping that in mind, we teach our children for 2 marks. It is important that we teach them 4 keywords. And if it is 3 marks, go beyond. I keep it as 8 keywords, sometimes 6 keywords, not more than that. And at times, if the paper is having, maybe, if they say that 3 functions of any 3 functions, so any 3 functions the child would write. So that carries 3 marks automatically. So it's important for us to teach children to complete the paper on time and always do one extra question. And then we have the internet and cyber fraud, a brief understanding of all these frauds. Now coming to final accounts of a sole proprietor. Final accounts of a sole proprietor, we have meaning, preparation. This is given the scope. We have just one entry, which is the closing stock adjustment entry. Now, we have taught children in the beginning when we started teaching, when there was no bifurcation of the semesters or the syllabus. We've taught children how to prepare trading account, how to prepare balance sheet, how to prepare profit and loss account. All this was taught to children. But now the case is different. Once the specimen paper came, we know how the paper is. So this is just a picture from the specimen paper, where the specimen paper, how it is highlighted that returns is not mentioned, where opening stock, what point, which is what is not mentioned, that the child has to figure out when he is going through the question in the question paper. Make them do multiple practice for this, because this is where they are losing marks. Some of them are losing marks where they forget to subtract, where they forget to calculate, to add. So gross profit is forgotten. Why? Because somewhere gross profit is forgotten, somewhere carried down. Gross profit, when you're carrying down, if the question says carried down, that is forgotten. So certain places children are forgetting points. So it is important for us to make them practice. And very clearly numbers are given: third, fourth, fifth, year fifth, and the sixth one. Fourth is given here, and then sixth one here, which is closing stock. So these pointers. Now, in my case, one of our student, he did this where he wrote the net profit year fourth. He said it's the same. Why do I write it here, ma'am? It is the same because the point is the same. But that doesn't mean that he will not write, though the number is given. But I told him that it is important that at least when he is writing, this was the first time when they were doing the paper, the specimen paper, that indicate the numbers correctly. So when you indicate the numbers correctly, you will be getting correct marks. So he felt that once it is written net profit, he just wrote net profit transferred to balance sheet. So if he would have written number, I would have given him marks for both. But here he wrote this net profit transfer to balance sheet. He wrote the amount, that is all. He did not write about this net profit in the balance sheet. The child will lose mark because he's writing the description here. If he's writing the number, then absolutely fine. So we have to teach children one method. So a teacher who is teaching maybe in points 1, 2, 3, 4, then there is absolutely fine. The teacher is teaching by gross profit or minus returns, or then the child should know properly that in profit and loss, in trading it is these many entries, in profit and loss in these many entries, and in balance sheet in these many entries. So it is important that how you teach. We are not solving the sum anymore. We are only highlighting, we are filling the blanks actually. That is what we are doing. We are just filling in the blanks which are given by the council in the paper, in the question paper. Now, this was the syllabus. Anyone having any query, please raise your hand so that the query can be resolved, or we will move further. Shall I go ahead then? Okay, I move on further. Uh, when we talk about semester 2 paper, now semester 2 paper comprises of, am I audible, everyone?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible,
Yeah,
ma'am.
thank you. Um, so when we talk about semester 2, the question paper of semester 2 is divided into two parts. So when we have section A, which is multiple choice questions, or we can say fill in the blanks, which is for 20 marks. And then further on, we have the section B, where when we talk about the section B, we have any three. I'm sorry, this is for 10 marks. I'm very sorry. Section B, we have any three questions. Question 2 to question 6. Now, when we talk about question 2 to question 6, there are a various different types of questions here. We have the direct questions, where we have the little descriptive questions. We have the difference between questions. Now, what all types of questions can be there? So when we talk about the direct questions, we have what question, what type questions are there? What is budget? What is budgeting? What is a cash flow statement? What is a summary budget, or what is a master budget? Write, write 3 points of three features of internal resources, or write three advantages of internal resources. Same way, and it can be mentioned as state three benefits of budgeting. So various different points are there where direct questions can come. When we talk about explanative questions, now explanative questions, same questions can be asked in a different manner. Explain the utilities of budget. So explain any three utilities of budget. Why? Because here it is carrying 3 marks, so it becomes three. Write any three utilities of budget. So what will not have anything, what becomes very different, direct question. Further on, short notes, as I told you, always it is important that we put it in a manner where we have the concept, the meaning. You write the meaning, then we have the concept, what you're writing, purpose or objective. So purpose in the form where you are putting in the objective, the need of it, or the objective. If there is no purpose given, or in the man the need is not given, then the what is the objective, it will be given, the objective word will be given. And further on, if you want to add to your answer, you can mention about the merits and demerits of the particular concept. Example is something which is optional, but I always suggest that a short note, if the short note has example, for example, if I talk about maybe IMPS, if they ask us to write about a short, a note on IMPS, we should know an example related to IMPS, immediate mobile payment system or service. We talk about mobile wallet, e-wallet, electronic wallet, why it is linked to the number, Aadhaar number. Then we talk about NEFT. NEFT, a beautiful short note can be written on NEFT. Again, for 3 marks. So mentioning the purpose, mentioning the full form, mentioning the electronic fund transfer, and giving one example is more than enough to get that 3 marks or 1.5 mark as given in the question paper. Further on, final accounts. In the final accounts, here we are only filling in the blanks which we saw in the previous slide. Further on, everyone learns the same way. No, we don't learn in the same way. We all have different understandings, different way to learn. I would try and reach to every student. And now this, further on we move, when we move on, I am reaching out to every student after the slide, where I try to kind of, you know explain a student that what is my study space. So this is not my, now this slide basically is talking about a student in me, that if I have to study, I have to prepare for my paper for commercial studies. How do I go about? The first and the foremost important thing is that I create a very small quiet place at home to study. So create a place, children, where you can have a place where you can sit to study. Now sitting to study, it is important to have a kind of a session where you study for 55 minutes, take a 5-minute break in the sense not mobile or something, not in getting into the electronic gadgets, but but taking a short break, again going back to study, and then gradually increasing the number of hours to study. Now while studying, I break down the difficult task into small sections. Now, as a student, if I am a student, what I will do, I will try and I will break down the difficult task, whatever I feel is difficult. If I talk about sources of finance, for example, sources of finance, I find it very, very difficult. I find sources of finance difficult, and I somewhere I feel that when we talk about shares, or we talk about equity shares or preference share, there is voting rights, there is no voting rights. How do I break it up? I would suggest, children, you break it in a manner, as I told you, when you study the difference, prepare three tables and one table with the bases. So not the distinction, but you study in a manner where you're writing only about equity, then you're writing about preference, and writing about dimensions. These are all your notes. What you prepare will be a kind of LMR for you. LMR is the last minute revision what you do. So no need to swipe over pages, just swipe over pages for the textbook, rather referring your notes. And believe me, it really helps. If you follow the instructions, it will really help, and nobody will stop you getting that 40 on 40 this year. I study the difficult thing first and then move on to the easier ones. Now, as my perspective as a student, I feel I should finish the difficult one. This is a kind of a survey which was done, where you try and you finish what is difficult. Do not escape. Again, here, do not skip anything. So my whole objective here is to tell you is, if you feel something is difficult, we still have ample time. Try out and make a timetable where you finish the difficult part and then move on to the easier ones. So, and uh, I would suggest that the last week of March, I don't think so anything must should be left to study. But if anything is there, try and finish by the end of March. From April, it has to be a thorough revision. Rather, from now onwards, it has to be revision. But if at all still it's something which is left, do not skip it, children. But from the month of April, do not start studying something new. So it is very important that you divide your difficult part, face it, do not skip it. You have to face it and learn it properly. And I use a planner to track my study progress. So as a student, it is important for you to plan out things. I am not making you telling you to make a timetable, time schedule for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Sometimes it is implemented, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's effective, sometimes it's not. You use your own planner track. Divide the times in in terms of, okay, after breakfast I will do this, before lunch I will finish this, and at night or in the evening I'll be doing that. You need to take time in a manner where you are utilizing proper study leave time. So this is your study space. According to me, over the years of teaching, what I have realized is important for us, for the ICSE students specifically. The matter is a lot. You have to write limited, but you have to study a lot. It is not that you just you cannot just study little. You have to study. So when you go prepared and when you know the matter well, you will be able to write. You don't have to think every time again and again. Oh, what comes next? What is next? That's important. So when you write and study, when you write proper pointers, it is important, and it is very imperative, rather it's very imperative that you will remember all points, and you'll be able to frame beautiful lovely points. Further on, how do I prepare for my examination? How do I prepare? The very first thing is, I need to know the syllabus. I need to know what is my syllabus. I should not be confused that, oh, this is there or this is not there, this is omitted or this is out of syllabus, or did I study this? This is very important, to know the syllabus, to know the syllabus very well. Second thing is, you have to read the lesson nicely. So whether it is budgeting chapter or sources of finance, or you talk about final accounts also, you will feel final accounts, why do I have to read? There is difference given. There's concept given of balance sheet, there's concept given of trading account. So you can read all those also. This is just to gain knowledge and so. Then we have highlighting of keywords. Now, when you are reading a lesson, it is important for you to highlight the keywords. Council does not expect you to write very big or long answers. It is about the quality and not the quantity. So the quality, it's the keywords. And keep you have to talk to your teacher that, ma'am, is this the keyword? If this is not the keyword, then which is the keyword? So understanding is also important. So when you are reading the lesson, keep highlighting the keywords. Prepare notes. Keep preparing notes, revision notes. Start solving papers. You have so many books which are there, which are having the different papers which are available. You have so many schools. Take papers, prepare your own notes. You have your textbooks having so many model test papers. All these notes will help you for the last minute revision. When you prepare, it is not that you are writing the same answer again and again, but you are preparing for your last minute revision, where you only have to go through the notes. And when you go through the notes, the preparation goes, everything comes in your mind, you don't forget. And if you do not plan and if you study, you will seem that you will feel that, whatever I'm studying, I'm forgetting. Why? Because you're not studying confidently and you're not studying properly. So there is a manner to study. It's just not like that just sit and study with one book and just don't swipe pages and study. That's not the way of studying, commercial studies at least. Learn all the difference between thoroughly. So whatever is given in the textbook, the difference between, study them thoroughly. So whether about when we talk about budgeting chapter, or we talk about banking chapter, or we talk about logistics and insurance, we talk about recruitment and selection, every chapter has some kind of difference given. Recruitment and selection also has difference given. Study the differences very well. So when you study the differences very well, half of the concept is clear. Next, you need to know the importance of learn to write, how to write short notes. So when you are writing short notes, as again I've told you, I'm again stressing on that the concept, what is a particular concept, whichever where the question is asked on the short note, purpose, objective. If you wish to highlight further, you may highlight the merits, two merits and two demerits also. Absolutely, it's like a quality answer, where you don't know, no looking back and getting full 2 marks here. Basis of distinction is required for difference between. So please again write and learn. Now, definition, concept or meaning. I would suggest here, if you are very good in mugging up, only then you study a definition, because you're quoting someone. So if you're quoting someone, you are quoting the person, you're quoting that it is quoted by so and so person. Do not write something in your own words. We cannot have a self-explanatory explanation in a definition. So it is important for us to know that we have to quote somebody in a proper manner. If you are unable to remember, then you move on to the meaning. So and so is meant by or is defined as, and then you may write in your own words or in the form of a meaning. Do not go with definition. Do not quote somebody's name according to so and then write an incorrect definition, which will not fetch you any mark. It's very, very important. Prepare for complete portion. It is important for you to not skip the portion. Very, very important. Don't skip the portion. You feel that, oh, I this is difficult, I will skip this. This is easy, I will do this multiple times. Oh, and I have done this is very, very easy, I will do this later. Don't keep this attitude. Please value the subject, value the portion, and study accordingly. So complete all the chapters very well. Not many chapters are there, it's only 6 chapters which we have. So complete the portion. Do not skip or do not escape the difficult part. Again, here, do not study extra. So when you are preparing for exams, when you are revising, you focus only on the part. Now, how will you know that you're not studying extra? When you know the syllabus very well. So knowing the syllabus very well, writing proper notes, learning everything part by part, you definitely will not study extra, because there's enough to study. There's enough to study, so there is no time to do study extra. You, and it's not only one subject which you have to study, there are other subjects also. So do not study something extra which is not required, at least for now, for the exam focus when you're preparing for exams. Further on, you have to keep revising everything. Every now and then you keep revising, and you should not be losing any focus. So not losing focus at all. Keep in mind that you have to study in a manner where you have to score full marks, or coming to a 35 plus marks. So wishing you all a very best. Prepare well for your exams. Students who have joined and teachers, best wishes to you all, where your students will do, I'm sure, very well. And I would again suggest here that you make sure that they prepare notes. The most important thing is for examination is tell them to prepare notes, highlighting the keywords. I would again emphasize here, show them how to write the short notes. You show them one answer, how do we write the short notes? And then further on, tell them to write, correct the notes. That's important. Checking of the matter, again, that is important. And children, it is important for you to highlight, to underline the keywords. So learn to write answers properly, so that so when you practice, you need to show it to your teacher also, so that you get the right feedback. That's very, very important. Further on, if any query, Mr. Jitin, I think so. This is the last part of the slide.
Yes, ma'am. We'll
Yes.
take any questions if there are.
Yes, please.
You can write it down in the chat box. Any queries, any questions you want to unmute yourself, or you can write it down in the chat box.
Yes, please go ahead. Any teacher, any student who has query?
Thanks, all thanks messages coming, ma'am.
Okay.
So I believe it was all clear.
Thank
With
you.
this, yeah, ma'am, we'd like to thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to all the participants who were present here. With this, we'll end the webinar now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear teacher.